Hello to everybody, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what time you're watching this webinar in. Welcome to this Ragic webinar. It's me, Fabio from Ragic, and today we're going to talk about how to share your database, such as sharing your data with others, allowing your colleagues to collaborate with you in terms of data processing, and also interacting with your clients who may be external right now. And there are a lot of functions in Ragic that allows you to share your database in the methods I've just mentioned, and that's what we're going to talk about that. Since sharing the database, you'll be sharing with your internal partners and your external people. So this webinar will be talked in two parts, because one will be talking about internally, and one will be talking about externally sharing your data. And let's just wait for another few minutes to allow more users to join this webinar. And right now, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'll answer you during in the stream. Also, I would like to apologize because this webinar, I'm doing this from home again, so I don't have the best devices that I may used to have. And unfortunately, since Taiwan is still under some form of lockdown, I can't reach I'm not in the office right now. I'm working from home. So if there are issues with the sounds or any issues with this webinar, please let me know via the chat section. And also in the chat section of the stream, which should be on the right of your screen if you're watching this webinar from a laptop, or on the bottom if you're watching it from the tablet app. You can just write your questions there, and during the stream, I'll answer you orally or provide a prototype if possible. Alright, it's 9:34 a.m. in my time zone. I'm in the GMT+8 time zone if you guys haven't known yet. And I guess it's a great time to start our webinar. And well, we're going to talk about sharing your Ragic database and how easy it is to basically use Ragic for data sharing. So, well, first of all, you may think, why do you need to share your database? Well, first of all, in Ragic, a database is not just for solo use. Of course, you can use it for solo use, but in Ragic, you can have a lot of your team members collaborate on a same database and basically use the same data instead of having one person using an Excel file, one person using the same Excel file, but it's from probably a month old. So collaborating with your colleagues smoothly is a big reason why you need to share your database with others. On the other hand, in terms of the more towards the public side, you might want your clients to submit their own information, such as you might want them to submit their own orders. If you're for a sales order system, you won't have to process their orders yourself. They could easily process it themselves, and then you can do all the internal processing for them afterward. And another reason is that you may have like a whole list of data or a lot of information that you want the public to gain access to. For example, you may have let's say you may have a list of courses that you want the public to know, like community courses, and you want to share the information with the public, and therefore you may want to have the public access your database to view them or to access them basically easily and smoothly, and Ragic is capable of doing all those things. And first of all, let's talk about the internal part of sharing your database first. And first of all, as I mentioned last week, let's just review it quickly. The place where you go to basically where Ragic, you need to add users in your database, which is you need to go to account setup, and here's the users part. As you can see, I have a lot of users right here. I mean, some of them I use it for my testing. Some of them you use it for our testing purposes, and here are where you add your users. And keep in mind that the subscription of your Ragic database is determined by the number of users multiplied the plan you've selected, and that will be the monthly price of your database. Here's you're going to add users, and every users will be managed under each user groups right here. As you can see, I have quite a few user groups where I can add users into them. And that's in terms of the users part. But what about the access part? Well, first of all, each sheet will have their own access rights. So let's just go to a contacts sheet. If you want to allow users to basically access your database, please go to change design right here, and you can go to form settings. Here it lists all the access rights for each users group. Since each sheet will have their own user access settings, and the access settings are determined by the group they're in. And right now you see that the user group is the bulletin user, which is set by default. I might not want them to have all the access rights, just set it as no rights. And since this is the contacts, I would like the sales team to have access to all the contacts, because they'll know who their clients are, who should contact them. So therefore, I can set them as bulletin users, which allows them to create and edit their own entries, such as the entries they're created, or viewing all the entries on this sheet. And we're going to set them as bulletin users. And for maybe the management team, they should be a viewer. They won't be able to modify any of the data, but they can view all the data. And another access role is called survey users, which is create and edit their own entries. They won't be able to view the entries created by others, so they won't have the viewer access rights. And just a simple formula, just think what bulletin user is just basically survey user plus viewer access rights. And the last access rights role will be called admin, meaning that you have complete control of the data on this sheet. So I'm just going to set this as survey user for now. And when you're done with this, just remember to click save. And right now, this sheet is now shared in a controlled manner. I've shared it with the management group, the users in the management group. They will be the survey users, meaning that they can create their own entries. And the sales team will be able to create their own entries, edit their own entries, but they can view all the entries created by others that are on this sheet. And yes, you can further select if you do not want them to edit, or if you do not want them to create new entries right here. And that's basically, that applies for every for the survey users and the bulletin users rule. And right now, you may have wondered, since Ragic you can add a user into multiple user groups. So for example, if I have a colleague named Terry, if Terry is both in the management group and in the sales group, what will his access right be? Well, since bulletin user has the largest, I would say, data power or level of accessibility, his access rights will be the bulletin users, because that role has a larger accessibility. And that's what happens if you're in multiple groups. The system just obtains basically the level with the highest accessibility. And let's just go to the form page right here. Let's click save. This is a template sheet that I just installed, by the way. So you may want to ask, we had quite a few queries about this, and which is sometimes, just taking this sheet as an example, I want a group to only see this sheet, but they have data in sync, but I want to hide the data and the information in the below part. How do I do this? Well, it's pretty easy with the multiple version sheet, which is extremely essential for, I would say, data control, access rights control, but also sharing your data simultaneously. So if I want to share this sheet in another form, all I need to do is use the multiple versions tool, which is under form tools. Click on multiple versions and use same data source on new sheet, duplicate sheet. I'm going to call this contacts, IT group only. And after it creates a duplicated sheet with their data in sync, but you can change the design. So for example, as I just mentioned, I do not want these fields, the department facts to notes, for this other sheet. I can simply just delete them on this sheet. It won't reflect on the original sheet that was just created. And here's how it looks for the IT contacts IT group version sheet. And also, in terms of access rights, also go to form settings and set up different access rights here. So I don't want the management and the sales team to see this sheet, only the IT, and they can only be viewer. Since they are distinct, since this sheet and the original contact sheets are basically pretty distinct from each other, not pretty distinct, but they are distinct sheets from each other. You can set up different access rights on them, and you can also change the design of your sheet, such as I just delete some fields. I may just want to change the style to maybe the label to a red, this label to a yellow, make it colorful, etc. As mentioned, thinking about like the distinct sheet logic, this sheet will not reflect on the original contact sheet, the original contact sheet, which is right here. However, since it's called multiple versions, the data will be in sync. So for example, If I create a new contacts right here in the original sheet, let's do it right now. Contact name, Fabio Quo, account name. I'm just gonna create this one, Ragic Inc. We're gonna save this record right here. As you can see, I just created a new record, Fabio Quo. There's 4 records right here. This one's the new one. Let's go to the other sheet, the multiple versions sheet. Yes, there are 4 entries right here now. And if I click in it, it basically populates the data that I've just written on the other sheet. And because these 2 sheets are in sync, the data will always be up to date, which is really important. So we won't have, like, if you're maybe using a spreadsheet software previously, you won't have one person using an Excel version and another person using a previous Excel version, because the only way to share your data is by emailing others. Basically just emailing the Excel file. You cannot control which version you guys are on. And Ragic solves this problem, but you can still maintain the controlled accessibility. Since some people may use Google Sheets, but Google Sheets, everybody's using the same version, and basically you won't have any form of data confidentiality, which is pretty, I would say, is pretty dangerous in terms of confidential information. But Ragic, you can, with access right settings and with multiple versions, it completely solves the problem. And talking about survey users, let's just go to the survey users part. One thing is that how are you going to assign a certain person to become an entry owner? So for example, since if the access right set as survey users, you want a person who didn't create this entry to have access to this record and to be able to edit it. How do you do that? So one thing that's really important is called the assign users field. Or actually the select users field. I'm just going to create one. Assign to. And field type, let's go to select user. The select user field enables you to basically select a user from your database. But if it's just a select user field, just allow you to select user, it can't work like a normal selection field for you to select users, but there are quite a few key functions. For example, you can set selected user as entry manager. If I do that, let me just show it for you. I've just set it up. Would you like not now? Exit. If I assign to, I'm going to assign to Terry Wright, and I save it. This is assigned to Terry Wright, and then this record will then be assigned to this user who can further edit and modify, view, edit, and edit the information on this record. And you can see who's assigned to via the I located in the bottom right area here, where you get all the action buttons and all the comments, etc. Click on the I. And you can see that there's an additional entry manager. This is my other email for testing, which is the Terry Wright's email. And that will be the entry manager, and it also notifies, any edit will be notified to fabio@ragic.com and this other email. So that is how you basically assign a person to take control of as a certain record in this case. And on the other hand, you can also create another a select user field in view reviewers, and another select user field. If you want a certain person to be able to review a record, you can invite user to review this record, and It's thinking about this way. It's basically you finish something and you need a supervisor to review this record or another group members to review your work, and you can use this and ask other people to review. And also multiple select can be enabled too. And if needed, you can also customize a review email. This is the default email that will be sent when they are reviewed, but you can customize this if needed. Then just click save. And if I ask another person to review, we're going to click on, let's call it Alvarez. And go to the I again. Basically right now it will show you that the notified, they say that it has notified Oscar Alvarez on this date, and it has been unread. If it's unread, it will be a gray tick. If it's red, it will be a green tick. If he has basically read the notification. But keep in mind that for them to be assigned or to review, these users must have access to this sheet. So I think what happens that it's not notified here is because Oscar Alvarez is not a user, is not in the IT user group. So I'm just going to, for you guys to understand, we're going to allow the user group to have access to this sheet. And if I think I need to reassign this first. If I reassign him to a reviewer, wait a minute. Let me check something real quick. So he should be, let me just check which user group he's in right here. What's Carl? I see. Within the user group, so he should be access. Let me try. I'm not sure. All right, so I think they're basically. I mean, it will basically if they have notified this information, notified in front of review, they will definitely receive an email and they will have access to this sheet. So, and you'll see if they are read this record or read the email, and they will see a green tick right here. That's basically how the reviewer field does. And just make sure that they have access to this sheet. And also keep in mind about one thing that what happens a lot with users is that when they go to link and load, such as this field is link and load, I'm going to click new. Account name is linked to the accounts sheet. They might be asking why sometimes they won't see this account sheet. It's completely blank. They won't see any records. Why is that? This is because they don't have access to the accounts sheet. If you're using link and load, you must have access to the sheet you're currently processing data on, and also the sheet that the link source sheet, which is the sheet that you're trying to basically select records from. You need to make sure that both sheets are enabled for access rights for the users. And it also works the same for generating reports and also other referencing tools. And just unfortunately, if you guys hear which is a bit noisy right now, it's because it's raining very hard outside. I apologize if there is some sound issues. It has been really rainy in the south of Taiwan recently. All right, let's get back to the webinar. So that is how you set up access rights and how all the key, I would say the key internal access rights settings for your sheets. Let's just save this, although it's empty. But there are also other ways to share your entries in a controlled manner. Let's just click on this record and go to Tools. As you can see in the share here, you're going to see share the sheet, embed this sheet, email this entry, and share this entry. I'm going to talk about share this sheet first. Basically it provides you with a link that and a QR code that allows your users to share, basically enter your data in an embedded form style. So let's see what this URL looks like. So this is more like an embedded form, which is similar to a Google form in some ways, and your users will be editing data in this form. And there's also a QR code that allows your users to scan and sign, and to access the sheet. Also, two other key settings is email this entry and share this entry. I will be talking about embed this sheet afterwards in the second part of this, basically the second part of this webinar. Email this entry. All right, and basically you can simply email this entry from this Ragic database, so to a certain recipient, and you can use CCs and BCCs, and you can also modify the subject. And if I send an email, I'm just going to send it to my own fab@ragic.com, and it basically sends the record, and by default it shows you the record summary and what to include. You can also include the record link, the Excel file of this record, the PDF file of this record, or other temporary access links. But right now I'm just going to send the summary of this record to my own email. I'm just going to click on send. After clicking on send, if sent successfully, you're going to see this part right here. Basically, your email threads will be, the email conversation will be located in here, right here. So if there's a reply, it will also be replied to here as well. And this also works very handy if you are using our, I think it's called the customer service, or like there's a template. Let me check what's it called. I think it's called customer service. Yes, customer service tickets template. You can install this, and after setting it up, this is how you'll be having a conversation with your clients in the tickets part. You'll be done on the right side, and do a plan. So this right now. And you can reply it right. You can reply it. Keep the conversation going right here, basically in the right side, the email conversation tool, and the bottom part, the bottom part right here. Just scroll down, and there's an attached file, or you can add new templates, email templates if needed, or just simply click send. That's one very, I would say, a very convenient way to share your data with people to the outside, but they won't have the complete and what's that word for, and for like permanent access rights to your sheets. And the other way is to just simply share this entry. You can just simply share, it basically generates a link, and there'll be a guest users, and they can have a read-only and an editable link that will expire in a number of days you've set up. And just keep in mind that any guest users with the editable link may edit this record, even if everyone, which just means public access rights, it says no rights on this sheet. And let's just go to the listing page. There are also some sharing tools. You can, since we have quite a few records, you can select to, other than sharing the sheet, you can also set mass email and mass SMS. Mass email is free. It's free as long as you don't send too many emails, but SMSs will be charged at a different price. Just keep in mind with that. And let's go to embedding tools right now. So as you guys have seen, the form that I've just generated that is shown on this link. How can you sort of do some customizations on it? Well, let's go to embed this sheet. And we have this one is called the database form. So the first page is if you want other users to have access to this form, to fill in the forms and basically make it public access, and you need to change the user group everyone to survey user, and you can update the access rights right here by clicking this button. But if you don't want to, it's fine. Just click next. And right now, this is how your form will look like. But you can change the banner, the background. The background, see, like this. And if I add a banner, maybe add like adding a coffee image in the banner, your form will look like this. You can also check the field order. Right, since the field order is one field after another, you can switch this. So you might want let's say you might want the contact ID to be the second row, and remember to click on save, which I just forgot about it. Contact ID, contact name, it follows it right here. And you can also pre-fill some settings and other default settings if needed. Restore the default settings if needed. And if you don't want a certain field to be displayed on this form, you have to go back to your original Ragic form and change the design over there. So you need to change the design there and hide the field. And this field will not be visible on the Ragic form, and it won't be visible on this Ragic embedded database form. So after finish how you like the layout, how you like to look at, click next, and any response image you would like to display when the user submit this entry. So I'm gonna say thank you from Fabio. Don't forget to join our webinar. And after that's done, let's just check how the form will look like. So it has applied the settings I've just applied, and I'm just going to say Fabio Quo, title Ragic, account name John, and etc. I'm just going to skip this. And when I submit, whoops, this one has some, may have a bug. I have to go check with our, plain text, HTML, save. I'm going to check with the account plus contact already in database. Let me check this. We may have a bug with the response message. I have to go check with our. Let me just try. Oh, actually, now I've got it correctly. So I'm not sure what happened previously, but now the messages are showing correctly. But I just made a typo right here. So that's how you're going to set up an embedded database form to interact with certain clients. And since also I didn't enable everyone to be able to access the sheet, if a user needs to access the form, they must log in first, log in with their database account, and if they have access rights, then they can fill the form that way. So if I do it from, if I haven't logged in, it should show another login screen for your users to log in first. And from user Clifford Lee, sorry it took me 4 minutes to answer your questions. What is the difference between approver and reviewer? Approver is a different system. Let's just go to the contacts here. Actually, let's just go back to the original sheet. They are somewhat similar, but yet different, I would say. Basically, the reviewer asks people to, I'm done. Please look at this. But they won't do any actions on in terms of approval. However, approval is different. It's set up down here. Configure approval flow for this form. You can set up an approval flow, meaning that, so I'm gonna say it's me, Fabio. I'm just a Ragic person, a Ragic employee. I completed something. I need my supervisor to check on it first. After the supervisor has checked, then the manager is gonna check on it, and then maybe like the finance team afterward. And there's a flow to this. If that's the case, then configuring the approval flow, and add them as approvers would definitely help. And it's configured down here, and add approval steps as like who to approve, direct supervisor or a certain user group or a certain user, and write the name, and so you can set up your approvals right here. And just since we're talking about approvals, don't forget that there's also other additional settings such as set rules, add approvers to the step, etc. And step name is going to call it 1, and going to ask, just gonna ask myself to approve this first. And if there's an approval flow configured, it's also be located in the bottom right corner right here. And I think previously we have done a very thorough webinar on approvals, and I can't really remember, but it's in one of the name of the webinar, but I've definitely done it. So if you would like to, you may go there as well. All right, and now we're going to, after we've just completed talking about more toward the internal side of sharing your data. Right now, I'm going to talk about the external side. So if you want to share your data publicly for other people to access, one thing really important is using our raw embed tools and make sure that everyone has access rights. And right now I'll be going to a sheet that I have designed, since it has quite a lot of data already, so I don't have to need to create a new one. But it'll be on the other database, so I'm going to take you guys right there. Just wait a moment, please. Hope this will work. Let's check it out. All right, you guys should be able to see this CPBL players list sheet. This is a list of CPBL, which is my favorite, one of my favorite baseball leagues, with the Taiwanese Baseball League. The player list from last year. And if I want to share this whole list with everybody, so everybody can view the players database and view all their information, and what can I do? Well, first of all, make sure that everyone has the access rights, so they are viewers. They can be viewed. Right now it says viewers, but also I might want them to. They should be viewers in this case, since they're only going to view data. But in other cases, so if you want the public to fill forms, submit their information, submit their own information, such as if they're a client, you want to submit their own client information. Make sure to set them as survey users or bulletin users if you want them to view all these submissions from others. So I'm just going to talk about how to allow other people to view. All right, let's go. Tools. Let's go to embed this sheets. So I'm going to talk about other tools. So if it's a database viewer, it allows users to view a database in the style you've decided. You can set the layout, the table layout, or block layout, or album layout, but I don't have an image for them, so probably a block layout would be better. And you can select to display the comments or display the logout button if needed. And also rows per page. And if needed, you can also apply a certain view right here. Let me remove this view. Remove shared view. You can apply a certain, oops, my bad. So a block view, and you can also apply a view up here. So it will be filtered in the view setup. And after it's done, let's go next. And it generates a new link for you to use. So let's check this out. So it shows the information in the I forgot what's it called, like the row view right here, and you can apply a view to filter it and this is how your users will be viewing the data on the sheet. And you can click in, and then they'll be viewing the more detailed information, just like viewing the data on the form page, the record on the form page. So this is database view. Let's check out others. What is a database query then? Well, basically, database query allows your users to apply filtering conditions. So let's go to database query. Set default query fields. So what fields are you going to allow your users to query? So I'm going to allow them to use the query by their name, Chinese name, position, team. I apologize, there are some fields in Chinese because this system was set as bilingual. You can refer to one of my previous documents about how I've set previous blog posts about how I've set this system up, and I think the system is still available for you guys to view if needed. And I'm going to default query fields right here for. Click save, and your users, when they want to search for information, they can query from these 4 fields. So, for example, if I'm going to go for Chen, oops, back to query screen. Let's clear filter for now. Alright, I'm going to check this out first. So if I want to query by picture, alright, there might be some issues. Exact mode is enabled. So if I don't want exact mode, I'm gonna say I accidentally enable exact mode. If I do not enable exact mode, then basically it will be done by the text filtering right here. And I've just filtered by YU and all the related the names that are eligible for this filtering conditions will display right here in the basically in the database viewer mode. If a field is a date, can they query by range? Actually, you can try this right here. So I have the data field, date of birth right here, save, and you can see that you can query it by a range of dates right here. And if I enable exact mode and then say Chen Yu, no, oops, maybe exact, I'm not really sure. I think the exact mode, you need to have all the fields in the exact mode thing. That's why it's not working correctly, but let's just not use the exact mode for now. And in terms of date of birth, it can now query from a range of dates. So after setting it up, click next. And you can select which fields you would like to display. And after you're done, click next. And yep, another link has generated. Let's check this out. This is how it works. Save, and this shows your data in the layout that the block layout that you previously determined. And let's just go to the other embedding tools. And database view and query, it basically does the viewer and query thing, the last 2 embedding tools, it combines them. So what you've queried up here, it will be displayed down here. So if I say Peng, I click search, and then it will be instead of making it as 2 pages, it'll all be done on 1 page, and one will be up here and one will be down here. And there's also other settings you can apply. Of course, the type of display, number of rows per page, display comments, logout, exact mode, text autocomplete. list all records at first, auto search, hide query bar, etc. And also just think about this as the two embedding tools combined together. So all the settings will also be combined in the same place. It's very convenient if you do not want to have your users search on one page and then go to the other page, finding out that they've searched something wrong and they have to go back to they have to go back a page again. It's all done in one page, so all they need to do is just look up, look down, find something wrong, just scroll back up and redo their search. And again, after you're done, click next and a link has generated. Let's just quickly look at how this is. The name query, I'm just gonna say pain. I click search, it's now down here. If I want to change something, I'm gonna go for Chen. It's still down here, so it's a quick modification for your users. And just go to the second page, because I have displayed quite a few rows already. And that's how this embedding tool is presented. And let's go back again. Database search, which will be the last embedding tool that I'll be talking about right here, since I've just talked about database form in the previous database. Oops, my bad. Should just click on this database search, and then again check everybody access rights. If you want to, just click on the update right now. And what this does is the database search embedding tool is basically like the search bar for the full text search for your database. So by default it displays a search bar, and that's the only thing that you can display. So instead of the other tools that I've just mentioned, it's more done through filtering, but this one is done through full text search. And this is how you want to display your records. I want to display as a table right here. And click next. And it enables as a WordPress shortcode only, so you can add this into and as a plugin in your page, or as a WordPress plugin. And finally, let's go to finally the raw embed right here in the bottom right here. It basically embeds your whole spreadsheet UI here, and with an iframe. Basically, I mean, it just simply embeds your sheet onto your website if needed. And that's would that be sharing? Well, yes, that's still sharing on your database, but still make sure that access rights are still very important to have them controlled. So actually, this webinar is done faster than what I've expected, and I've actually gone through most of the materials that I wanted to talk to. So let's just review this quickly. So in terms of sharing your database, why do you need to share your database? Internally, you want to collaborate with your colleagues and set access levels. Data will be controlled but still shared and up to date, so you don't have to worry about them. Like worry about files being one person having a version, another person having another version, and the versions don't match, and which therefore causes confusion, misunderstanding. That is actually the better side, but sometimes if you're using old data and which is incorrect, worse things would happen afterward. And also you want to share your database to have your clients submit their own information, so you don't have to do it themselves. Your clients can proactively communicate and work with you. Or in my case, what I've just done with the CPBL database, you can have the public access your database to have them to view your data, or for them to basically make it as as a database for them to access. So if you want to do it internally, make sure that your access rights settings are set correctly. Users must be added into their respective user groups, and each sheet you must need to set up the access rights in terms of user groups. So one user group may have survey user access rights, the other user group may have bulletin user access rights. So if there are multiple groups, make sure if a user is in multiple groups, their access rights is determined by the higher level, the higher level. So if it's in group 1, which is only a viewer, and in group 2, which is a bulletin user, if a user is in both, then his access rights will be a bulletin user, since group 2 has a higher access right, which is bulletin user. So if another situation is one sheet, you want a person to view data, a whole record's information, but another group of users only to view limited. This time, using multiple versions with different sheet designs will be very handy, because data are in sync, but they can be designed and used differently. This also works with action buttons. Action buttons as well. So if you want to hide an action button on one sheet but not on the other, you can also do it with multiple versions too. And make sure you use the assign user fields and entry view fields wisely to interact with your colleagues in your database. And a key thing when using link and load or referencing other sheets is that make sure you have access rights to both sheets, to all the sheets that are in the workflow, such as link and load. If you don't have access to the link source sheet, then you can't use link and load. And other ways, you can share your entries via email, via SMS at another price, or even create an embedded database form. And to make your sheet look like a form style. One other thing is that you can also just share the record with a link, which is let's just go back to that sheet quickly. Via a link, which is again share this entry and guest users permissions, and how long it's going to expire. You can just set that up and generate a link. And finally, we've just talked about all the embedding tools, such as embedding. Let's go back to the menu. The database viewer, database query, database view and query, which is a combination of viewer and query, and creating a database form and database search. And for most of the tools, you can also do certain customizations on them. And so you want them to be displayed in a certain way. Default queried in certain fields only, or you want to set them as the order of your fields in the database form. These are all customizable in the Ragic database. And yeah, that's what we've basically talked about in this webinar. And right now, for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm open for any questions about this webinar. Or if you have any questions about Ragic in general, feel free to ask them right now, and I'll answer you in the stream. Or if it's more detailed, I still suggest you to go to the Need Help button located on the top right corner and submit a support ticket. Write your information, select the file, and submit, and grant Ragic support access to your account. So by doing that, we'll have access to your account, and we can see the issues, or give you design suggestions, or provide you with solutions. From user clickly, will there be any issues if someone is querying the database while another user is editing entries? I don't think so. This is because when we're querying, the system will only look for the records that are already saved and indexed in the database. So if somebody is editing, I think we will still be looking. We will still be querying the record in the previously saved format, so I don't think that will be an issue. And also, if you'd like to, just feel free to join our Facebook account and our Twitter account if you would like to. And we also have LinkedIn, which you're going to get our latest information about, such as tutorial videos, tool function updates, etc. And you can also interact with us over there. How does granting people access to view public-facing information affect subscription cost? I don't think it affects because if you allow everyone to access, it doesn't matter, because Ragic, the subscription of Ragic is determined by the number of internal users in your Ragic database, meaning that your colleagues, your directors, and that we're only counting the subscriptions. But if you're showing it to everyone, just sending us everyone access rights, you won't be cost extra. Even if you allow the public to even create new entries, make the public set no access rights for your sheet, it doesn't matter as well. Alright, and just as a preview, I guess the next webinar, which will be in a month, I'll be talking about the basic webinar design, and just talking about how to design a Ragic sheet from scratch and how to design the system and using the core systems. If you'd like to, feel free to join. And in the webinar afterward, I think I'm not completely sure about this, but I'm planning to do a Q&A session about I'm going to be creating a form, and you guys can submit your questions, and I'll try to answer you guys during the stream. And I'll be creating a form, and I'll provide you the link in the next webinar, and the Q&A webinar will be due on August, as far as I've planned. Is there a limit to the number of entries for the queries to work? I'm not really sure about what you mean by that, because the number, let me think how to rephrase this. Basically, you're just querying a database that already has numerous entries already. So I can't think about any limits that can be applied. Basically, it just shows you just think about how you filter data in Ragic. You don't have any limits as long as the data is in your database and the, what you call this? And it applies to the filtering conditions that you've just set up and executed. Oh, like a query search slows down with more entries. If you have a lot of like tons of entries, like we do have, sometimes we do have 100,000 of entries in your database, then yes, because the system will have to look through all the entries. Look through all the entries to find the display entries, which matches the rules, which doesn't. If it matches, we display it. If it doesn't, we don't display it. And just think about when you're reading a book, if it's 1,000 pages, it's gonna take you a while to read through all of them and understand the whole book. But if it's just like 100 or 200 page novel, it could be faster. All right, just the last few minutes for your final questions, if you guys have any. From user Greg Jogan. If you're talking about the date formats, you can customize the date formats if it's on a date field. For example, I'm just gonna create a date field, date of birth. So here's a lot of formats right here. We have quite a few formats you can select from here, or you can customize your own format. Just remember, year is presented YYYY, the month and the date is presented with the capital M and a smaller d. Just determine how you would like to customize the formatting for your date field. You can just do it however you like. So I'm not exactly would you mind telling me what is the ISO 8601 format? I'm not exactly sure, but from the 2020, the dashes, it should be YYY-MM-MM-DD. I think that from your example, if that's the case, this is how the date is. I'm sure to click on the date today's date. Is this how you would like to present the date? Oh, as a preset, I think you can do it in company settings. I'm sure. Let me check out. Make sure. Right now in start. Okay, I'm just go through the whole process again for you guys to see. Start, account setup, and then click on company settings here. Here's the default date format that you can do it as a default for your database. Since every country has their own default date format. Some use it with date, month, year, month, date, year, month, date. A lot of different variations. You can set your default date format, customize it yourselves. And there are also other defaults: default number, default money, decimal separator, thousand separator, etc. Just think about this way. If you're thinking about changing the default presentation of your database, of your whole database, please go to company settings and do them there. All right, last 2 or 3 minutes for your questions, if you guys have any. I'm not really sure about the international standard organizations, the organization standard, but I think I've actually changed the default date format already, but yeah, you can change it by yourselves there. And yep, I guess it's time to conclude our webinar. It's 10:36 right now, and if you've missed our upcoming webinars or previous webinars, that's fine, since all our webinars will be saved and uploaded to our YouTube channel. So feel free to check out our YouTube channel and to watch our previous webinars and also our amazing tutorial videos, which we did spend quite a lot of effort on. And just feel free to check them out to get a better understanding of Ragic. And that's it for today's webinar. And thanks for you guys for participating today. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.